Well, good Saturday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana Weather, bringing you the midwinter forecast update. A little bit of a short-term update here about some winter weather that we may be experiencing tomorrow. Before we get to that, we're sponsored today by Remote Eyes. If you're looking for a good way to monitor your business or some other anything that you want to monitor, really, you can do it right from your smartphone. You want to give Remote Eyes a call, 888-291-6379. Sales at remoteeyes.com. You can also visit them just at remoteeyes.com, right on their website, to get an idea of the great kinds of assets that they have to offer you. They got unique housing solutions that can meet pretty much whatever specs you want. They also offer some drive-through expediter solutions. So if you have any need for a security camera, a solution of any sort, you can monitor right from your phone. Give them a call. Tell them Southern Indiana Weather sent you. All right, now before we get into the winter forecast update portion here, but just really quickly, I want to say there is some winter forecast actually in the weather. It's a minor event, but tomorrow we do stand a chance to face some showers. The GFS, which of course you know you're a day before the event, the GFS is not really the right model to use, but I'll show it anyway here. Not really showing a whole lot, just very spotty. And I show you that because the GFS has been the one that's been bullish about this, but it's not bullish about it anymore. All right. The high-res NAM, though, also not very bullish about it. And the regular NAM, the high-res NAM, not very bullish about it either. And by the time you get to the 3-kilometer NAM, that's where you start to get a little bit more bullish here. And this is the kind of the outlier of the group here. As you see, here's some snow showers starting to come in late during the overnight, early tomorrow morning. I'm skeptical of that. I think this is more of an afternoon event, and there's those snow showers moving in tomorrow afternoon. This is not going to be a huge event by either way, and you see it's a pretty quick moving system, and then it's just more or less some squalls. So, well, what do we get with it? Well, if you are the GFS, you get a whopping 0.2 of an inch here in Evansville area, all the way up to a 1/2 inch in Bloomington and 0.6 of an inch there in Louisville. So you can see a 1/2 inch or less, far less for the most part around the area. The high-res NAM, virtually almost nothing. If you go to the highest resolution NAM that we've got, now you start to see some 1-inch plus totals, but it's in streaks. Keep in mind the 3-kilometer NAM has not performed well ever since it's been in existence for the past few months. This is still an experimental model. They're testing it out. So I wouldn't rule this out, but it's certainly out of the norm. I really think a dusting at most for some of us, maybe up to an inch, but that's going to be in very isolated spots. This is not going to be a big deal. And really, temperatures tomorrow are going to be the big determining factor. I think we're going to go above freezing a little bit. We're going to go to about 34 to 36 across the area tomorrow here in southern Indiana. And, as the snow starts to fall during the afternoon hours, it's going to melt on contact. That's the most part. Now, as temperatures fall below freezing later tonight, any snow that's left could stick, or if it's a heavy enough snow shower, it could briefly stick as well. So I wouldn't rule out some minor accumulations, but overall, this is not going to be a big event. They're going to be pretty minor, so this is not a freak out event. Roads will most likely be fine unless they are untreated, but even with the warm temperatures, the warmer temperatures above freezing, I don't think it's going to be that bad. Now, there are some things coming down the pipe that could be a little bit more interesting. There's a chance of some snow showers on the GFS tomorrow, but then as we go later into the week, there's a system going up to our north here on Tuesday. Probably not going to affect us, but next weekend, though, we start to get this rainmaker that comes to a snow kind of a setup, and it goes back and forth on the model. So there is hope for something in the future, but not a tremendous amount of hope. And you can see beyond that, then Wednesday the 8th, there's a system cutting down through the area. And remember, by the time you're getting this far out into the modeling, it's anybody's guess as to whether these are right or not. Usually within 3 to 4 days, we're starting to get an educated guess that is reasonable. But, this far out, you just can't trust it. So all that to say, there are some chances of some precip coming out, but nothing that just really strikes me out as totally fantastic. I would watch next weekend, though. That looks the best at this point. Now, let's just talk about the winter forecast update. I promised whenever I did my winter forecast, back here on November the 4th, actually, is whenever I released this. And then my preliminary one was back in September 24th, I think. I promised that I would do a mid-winter update, and I haven't had a chance to do it at this point. Well, we got about a month and a half or so left of winter yet to go. March, the 21st or so, somewhere right around in there, is when spring officially starts. Meteorological winter is actually December, January, and February. We've only got a month to go of meteorological winter. But it still snows in March on sometimes too. By the time you get later in March towards April, it's very hard. So realistically, we've got February and maybe part of March to go that we could get some winter weather out of this before the warm up starts to occur. So let's just take a look at the winter forecast and see how we go. And first off, there, as I've said before many times, there are no winter forecasts. My winter forecast was not perfect this year at all. And by the way, if you go to southernindianaweather.com and you go to winter, and you can see my final winter forecast and my preliminary winter forecast right there with it as well. I've kept these up for transparency, and you can go take a look at them. There are no perfect winter forecasts, but I've had some hits and I've had some misses. We keep scrolling down through the data here, and you'll get actually to my forecast. And let's talk a look about the highlights. Well, the thing that I said for our area would be periods of cold would be in the blue here. And by periods of cold, what I meant is that sometimes you would have a warm up, sometimes you'd have a cool down. It wouldn't be cold or it wouldn't be warm all season long. You keep going back and forth. Excuse me. And that's really what we have seen so far, so that's been pretty good. I also put us in this rain snow battle zone here in the red with an active storm track. Well, the active storm track's definitely come true, and it has been a battle zone. It's been rain winning out mostly more than anything, but that seems pretty reasonable. I also had heavier lake effect snows, and I said that they would be an early lake effect snow machine cranking up there. That's happened too. Hasn't been to the record totals that I thought that it could have been, but the lake effect snow, some of the places have seen pretty heavy up here. Has been pretty bitterly cold for some places up to the north. So overall, this hasn't been too bad for most of them. Now, I said warm and dry out west, and they've had some record rainfall, and they've actually erased a chunk of their drought out west. So that's not been completely right out there, but you never get anything completely right. And by the way, that's why the forecast confidence is on here, and it's only 60%. I was not 100% confident in this, and well, there's reasons for that. But as we take a look at other things, I put a temperature outlook as well, and basically I said we would be below normal around here. Well, let's actually take a look at that data. Here's the temperature departure that we had from December 1 to December 31, and you see that was a very cold month. I mean, we were talking places here 2 and 3 or more degrees below normal here, and about a degree below normal around here. So it was a very cold month overall. We had a little bit of a warm spell in December, but that quickly erased away, and we had a very cold December. Now, of course, if we go back here to what we've seen so far in January, from the first to a couple of days ago, it's been the absolute opposite of that. We've had a very warm month. So by the time you average them out, we're probably pretty much near normal right now. We're entering into another cold period though right now that could help to knock that down. So overall, I don't think that the temperature outlook has been terrible. It may not end up being -2 or -3, but I think that most of the country here in the positions that I have will be below normal. The Northeast probably not, but a good chunk of our area will definitely, I think, will be below normal by the time December, February, and March are averaged out over that. I forecasted an active storm track. Well, we've definitely seen an active storm track, no question about that. If you take a look at precipitation here, here's the December precipitation. Here's the percentage of normal. All right, and we had that active storm track right here through the Ohio Valley. And now it was not here in Illinois. It was focused more towards southern Indiana and Kentucky at that point. And then here we go for January. And look at the active storm track that we have had here. Everybody in the area is, about 100 to 125% of normal. So we've had an active storm track as far as that. The problem actually is the percent of snowfall that we have through this winter season so far. And you can see, well, goodness, we're looking at 5 to 10, maybe 25% at most around the area of our normal for mean so far. So far, the forecast that I put out for snow, and we'll get to it down here, I forecasted above normal snowfall. We are not there yet. And I'll be honest with you, I really don't think that we're going to see above normal snowfall with this. I think this is pretty much going to be a bust there. If you want to, where I think the above normal snowfall is probably going to end up occurring is going to be somewhere up in here, but I don't think that we see above normal here by any means. I think we're going to end up below normal for the season unless something drastic changes for us down in here. Definitely we're going to be below normal at this point, I think. We've got a long way to make up, and we could make that up. There's always that possibility. But, we've got a little ways to go here. I mean, we're talking 5 to 25% of our snow around the area. And remember, the forecast, the normal snows that we are, I also put those in there. Normal snow here at the weather office is 11.9 inches. And, we've had some bang-up winters in the past, and we've had some low winters in the past. And, right now we're only sitting at a couple of inches of snow, and that's it. So, I've got basically about 10 more inches of snow than I need to get to make normal over this winter. Could that happen? Well, There's a possibility of it, but the odds are stacked against it the later you get in. My highlights for the forecast: much cooler than last winter. Well, that's been true. We have had our warm spells, but remember last winter we only had a couple of weeks of cold weather, and then it was warm the entire time otherwise. And that's not been the case this year. December was very cold. We're entering into a pretty chilly period here again for the next couple of weeks as well. So it has been much colder overall than last winter. We did have a few bitter cold air invasions. I still think we got a couple more that may hit our way. That's a possibility. Snow total is highly dependent on those number of cold air intrusions. Favored was the above normal snow, but I don't think that's going to happen. But this was definitely right, that highly dependent on the cold air invasions. And, we just couldn't get all the circumstances to line up with us again. So the monthly breakdown that I forecasted was for, winter storms to be more frequent east of the Rockies in December. It just wasn't for us. And the winter pattern got established by mid-December. It did. We were very cold in mid-December. That was right. January to February, the heart of winter comes. Active storm track. Yep, we've had the active storm track. It's just been rain for the most part for us. More frequent cold air invasions, lessening grip by late February. Well, my forecast here was for it to lessen grip by late February and maybe for an early spring. Well, let's take a look at that. Let's look at what the data is saying to us, by the way, at this point. So remember, let's go out here and let's look in the Bering Sea. This is a good way to longer range forecast. The Bering Sea rule helps with this. And by the way, if you want to do something here with the Bering Sea rule, go to organicforecasting.com. This is a really great site. If I get this pulled up here, the organic forecasting method here is a really great site. You can look at the BSR maps here, and you can also learn a little bit about the Southern Oscillation Index change and the recurring Wasby-Rave train. You can look at the East Asia rule, typhoon rule stuff. So if you really want to learn more about that, I encourage you to go there. But we're going to look at this here. And what I want you to see is, remember, basically what happens here in the Bering Sea. And our teleconnection point is just right over above the Aleutian Islands right here in Indiana. So basically what happens in the Bering Sea is going to happen here in the U.S., the eastern portion of the U.S., around 20 or so days later. It's actually 17 to 21, I think, but roughly 19, 20 days later is what it usually happens. Well, right now you can see there's a trough. There's a ridge starting to come in here a little bit, but there's a big trough up here in the Bering Sea. Well, watch what happens over the next few days. So there's that trough that swings through, but then it gets replaced by this pretty big ridge, and watch what happens is this big ridge rears its ugly head up in here, and then it expands and then kind of retrogrades to the west, and what you have is this big ridge hanging around here almost as far as the eye can see here in the forecast here on the ensemble data. Well, what's that going to mean for us? Well, a ridge means a big warm-up. Well, when? Well, it starts to rear its head about the 1st or 2nd of February, and it's lasted here the 12th of February. We're still in it. So that would tell me that about the 20th of February onward, we could be looking at some much more than normal conditions. So if we look at the ensemble data here actually only goes out until the 12th is this line here. You can't see it because of my little screen here, but this is the 10th right here, the 11th and the 12th, so we don't see it out on the ensemble data yet. So we still see a cooler period, although it's not really all that cold in the ensemble data. Cold enough that we could get it down to snow? Well, whenever you see lows like this, yes, but nothing. Of course, this is going to change a million times as you go through there. So there are there's better chances here when you're looking at upper 30s and lower 40s. There's some better chance for some snow events there than there is when you're looking at 40s and 50s like we have been, and even some 60s. All right, but nothing, unfortunately, right now that screams out to me that we're going to get a major snowstorm just by looking at the data. Now, I will say this. Of course, we don't see out to the 20th yet, but in a few days, if that ridge does really hold true in the Bering Sea, you're going to see these numbers spike, and I think we're going to see a nice February thaw later in the month of February. So here's the point. I think you're going to have to get the snow to produce here within the next 15, 20 days, or you're not going to produce much. You're going to get a February thaw, and then by the time you get into March, it's going to be very hard to produce snow. You can, but everything has to line up just perfectly, and not much of anything has lined up well this year. So as you take a look at that, just keep that in mind. And remember, now there is a system next weekend that's coming in. Continue to put the GFS here in motion. You can see there it is as we come into the next weekend. There's Friday, and then here's Friday night, here's Saturday now, and you can see there's some rain that comes through on Saturday, and then watch this, a pretty decent potent little low pressure, and it brings some snow to the region here with it, and some snow on the backside. It does not bring a mega snowstorm for us. That on this particular run stays up to the north, but it has varied every single run. So there is a possibility that next weekend could spell some wintry mischief. I would bet more on the on the prospect of rain at this point, personally, but we'll keep our fingers crossed for you snow lovers and hope. Beyond that, we do have the active storm track still firing up, and I still see some storms rolling through. The question is, can the pattern produce? And right now, we are not in just an overly great pattern for snow right now with what the teleconnections are out there. So I won't rule it out, but I will say this: the winter forecast as far as snow looks like to be a bust to me at this point. I'm not ready to wave the white flag yet. We'll wait until winter's over before we see what the totals actually do. But I think for the reality here is, don't expect above normal snowfall the rest of this winter. Could we get another winter storm out of this? We could. And if we got a pretty big one, it could bring us up to near normal or even above normal if it was a really big snowstorm. But I don't look for that to happen. I think what we're going to see is maybe another one or two snowfalls besides the one we're getting on Sunday. We may see another one or two snowfalls this winter long, but they're probably going to be pretty minor based on what we've seen so far. That's my best guess at this point. I think for most of us around the area, if we get even to 7-8 inches this winter, are going to be doing good. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope we have some epic storms for you snow lovers, folks, but that's where we stand right now. This does not look like this is going to be a great winter. La Nina has really taken on shape more than what people thought it would, and the weather has just not produced, this pattern is not produced in the ways that we most winter forecasts actually thought it was going to be. I don't know any winter forecaster that got it right this winter. This has been a very unique winter, tough to forecast in large part because there are no good analogs in the past that we could look at. We did our best guess with the analogs, but they've not panned out so far. So it's a winter to learn from and grow, and hopefully next winter will be a little bit better. But that's where we stand right now for the winter forecast update, folks. Some mixed signals, some good, and some parts not so good. But hey, I'm going to be honest. I'm not gonna candy coat it and say I had a great winter forecast when I didn't. I'm always going to be honest with you guys, and I know that's why you follow me, because I call it like it is, and I'm honest about it, and I don't candy coat it if I got it wrong. And that's the way I do. That's the way I do things, and I'm always going to do that. Well, that's it for this update, folks. Little minor snows tomorrow, and then maybe some bigger snows next weekend. We will see. But for now, we're in that wait and see mode.